What's up YouTube, Crafting Cars here, happy Tuesday. Now for those of you who have been following along with my B16 Civic build, first of all, thank you for the support. And secondly, you remember that the last clip I showed of this project was me wheeling my engine into the garage after I just got it back from my buddy's house from getting my cams degreed and my ATI crank pulley installed. And now, as the title suggests, and I'm happy to announce, the engine and transmission are put back together and installed in the car. And today, we're gonna sit down and talk about just how we got here. So about a month ago now, I released a video about how to prep your motor before getting your cams degreed. And basically the main component of that video was locking the VTEC on cylinder number 1. And now we got our cams degreed, had the motor back, now we had to undo what we did in that video. So valve train had to come apart. I had to unlock those lifter arms on cylinder number 1, put everything back together, and as I put everything back together, I made sure to clean everything and give it a nice coating of assembly lube. Now after we got everything put back together on that cylinder head, I torqued everything down to spec, installed my timing belt covers, and moved on to the tedious process of setting my valve lash on my intake and exhaust side. And my cams actually matched up with the same valve lash spec as OEM, which is 7 thousandths of an inch on the intake side and 8 thousandths of an inch on the exhaust side. And now, with all 16 of my valves adjusted, I can finally wrap up this motor by installing our valve cover, water outlet, VTEC solenoid, and distributor. So that wrapped up everything we had to do on the engine. Now it's time to move on to the transmission side of things. Now for you OG subscribers, you know that we had that Integra GSR transmission pulled all the way apart, and we installed a Type R LSD. Well, now it's time to put it all back together. So I did a lot of referencing my old videos and pictures, just so when I put the internals in the transmission, I had everything clocked in the right direction, everything seemed okay, and once I was comfortable, I put a fresh bead of Honda Bond silicone RTV on those casings, sealed them back together, bolted it all up, installed some new detent springs because that's supposed to improve the shifting feel, I guess. I just hope this transmission still shifts after all this because this is my first time pulling apart a transmission like this. But yeah, pretty confident everything felt okay, so I guess we'll see. So now the motor and the transmission are done. All we had to do was mate them back together. So my roommate came out and helped me take my engine off the engine stand, put it on the ground, and then on my transmission I installed my clutch release fork and my throwout bearing and went to work putting them back together. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for, putting that B16 into the Civic. So my strategy here is pretty simple. It doesn't require any engine hoist or anything like that. What I do, jack up one side of the car as high as it'll go, take the wheel off, and I take my engine, lay it face forward on some blankets and 2x4s, slide it underneath the car, then tilt it back up once I have it nice and centered. Then I usually take the car, get it as low as I possibly can after taking both the wheels off. I get inside the engine bay and I jack up the motor. Usually I can just lift up one side at a time, slide some 2x4s under there, just so I get the thing about 6 inches higher than it usually would sit on the ground. At that point, if I have everything lined up with the motor mounts and everything, I just do both sides, bolt up both the motor mounts. Once the motor is attached to the chassis, then I can lift up the whole car and engine as one, put the wheels back on, get my jack and boards and everything out of there, and just like that, the motor is installed in the car. Super simple, only need one guy to do it, and yeah, that's how I'll be doing it from now on, because I have installed motors from the top, and usually when you do that, you're banging up your alternator and crank pulley on everything and the transmission, and it just doesn't go as smooth. So yeah, definitely recommend installing it from the bottom. So that's gonna do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the motor install and are as excited as I am. I know it was a whole lot of time lapse, but when you got hours and hours of footage that you gotta put into one video, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. So hopefully you guys still enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button. Leave us some feedback down below if you have any questions, or talk to us about your build or anything like that. We like to read it all. And yeah, if you're into these old Japanese ship boxes and engine swaps and stuff like that, make sure you're not missing out on Friday's uploads. Gideon uploads every Friday, just like I upload every Tuesday. Content about his Mazda RX-7 FC that he's gonna be putting a V8 in, so you're not gonna wanna miss out on that thing. It's gonna be pretty damn crazy. So yeah, I got pretty much all the parts I need to start this thing up next week. Will I start it up next week? I guess you're just gonna have to stay tuned and find out. Bye!